Rick Perry was commenting on the botched execution that took place in Oklahoma. This was the execution of Clayton Lockett, and the whole execution took about 40 minutes. And at one point, after they injected him with the first injection, he was struggling. He looked like he was in a lot of pain. In fact, he even said, "Oh man." It was such a difficult scene to watch. They had to lower the curtain so viewers wouldn't be able to see any more of it. And later on, authorities said that they had issues with his vein, and it wasn't an issue with the injection. Now, I should note that European drug makers were originally giving us the execution drugs, but then later they decided to stop giving us those drugs because of their objection to the death penalty. Now, states that still do executions refuse to have any transparency as to where they're getting their injection drugs from. So that's a bit of an issue, and a lot of people are concerned that that execution falls under cruel and unusual punishment. Now, Rick Perry was on NBC's Meet the Press, and during that interview, he was asked about the botched execution, and here's what he had to say.
Is this inhumane?
I don't know whether it was inhumane or not, but it was botched. And I hope that not only the governor, the legislators will look at the process in Oklahoma.
But you don't even want to see, even somebody convicted of a heinous crime, you don't want to see the government responsible for forcing a heart attack because they couldn't inject the proper lethal drugs.
There's a way to deal with this, and obviously something went terribly wrong.
Is it appropriate for a pause in our national discussion and application of the death penalty? The president talking about bias, uneven application, soul-searching questions that he'd like the country to take. Do you agree with that as a governor?
There may be appropriate for a pause in Oklahoma, but here's where the president and I disagree. He all too often, whether it's on health care or whether it's on education or whether it's on this issue of how states deal with the death penalty, he looks for a one-size-fits-all solution centric to Washington, D.C., and I will suggest to you that's one of the problems we have in this country. We're a very diverse country, and allow the states on these issues that aren't addressed directly by the Constitution to come up with the solutions.
So Texas has executed 500 people since 1976. Texas is the leading state when it comes to executions, and so Perry is not going to back down from his defense of the death penalty. But it is important to note the number of people that have been exonerated because of DNA evidence proving their innocence. The Innocence Project covers this on a regular basis. It's important to note the number of people that were serving sentences where they were supposed to get executed, but then all of a sudden they get life sentences because they fought in court and they realized, hey, you know what, there might be some evidence indicating that, hey, this person did not commit the crime. So that's a really big problem, but Perry doesn't ever talk about that.
No, he talks about humane execution. I mean, a moron talking about an oxymoron, it's an offensive conversation to see him then talk about criticize the president for this. I mean, we're talking about a botched execution. These are the things, and David Gregory, whatever you think of him, in suggesting a pause, which would be a light thing for Rick Perry to say yes to, I mean, most of the country has taken a pause on this, and a lot of states just don't do it at all because it is, at its core, the most inhumane thing that a society can do. That guy shouldn't be on the gurney, in my opinion, in the first place. And that is, why do I think that? Because I think it goes against our Christian nation, Jimmy.
Because it sends the wrong message to everyone involved, right? People forget that there's when torture happens, the reason why you're against torture morally, and not only because what it does to the person being tortured, but because it degrades humanity in general, and especially the person doing the torturing. It robs that person of the soul, and they're both changed afterwards. And the same thing with state murder, which is what this is, right? So you take someone and you murdered them, and they're defenseless to stop you. And what that teaches people, you're supposedly telling people, here's a person who solved the problem using violence. And we're going to show them that's wrong by solving this problem using violence. So it reinforces the very thing you're trying to get rid of in your society, which is violence. So it reinforces, and if you say it's a deterrent, which is what the people who are in favor of the death penalty say, well, the studies all show it's not a deterrent, that it does the exact opposite.
It's certainly not in this country.
No.
And even when we had these hangings in the middle of town, everyone would come come out to, it didn't deter that.
No.
It didn't deter it then. In this country, yes, in Saudi Arabia, it has deterred crime. It has deterred murder. That is a homogeneous society. It's a totally different model than our model. And
what
it's,
a price
at this
to pay.
point, yeah, exactly. It is state-sponsored murder, and Rick Perry is sitting there defending it, then likening it to health care, saying, the president tries to fit everybody in a shoehorn.
It's ridiculous. I know, it's ridiculous. It drives me crazy. And everything is, obviously he's a politician, so he's going to be political, but how they take such a serious issue and twist it to meet their political agenda just makes me sick to my stomach. Especially when we live in a country where we pretend as if there's some sort of justice. We have, innocent until proven guilty model, right? But that's not the case. We have so many different factors that play a role into whether or not someone gets convicted of a crime, whether or not they're innocent. Money plays a huge role. So it goes beyond the death penalty. When it comes to sentencing and mandatory minimums, there's such a lack of justice in our justice system, and it's maddening. So I want to have a real discussion about that on Meet the Press.
Yeah, there is a real, and people have those real discussions. But you have a governor of a state talking about how this execution was wrong because it was botched, but it still should happen. Botched execution or not, it's just one example. This is the tiniest example of why capital punishment is inhumane. There's no humane way to kill someone. That's inhumane.
Absolutely.
There's three reasons why what Rick Perry said was disgusting. He's killed more people than any other governor.
He's so proud of it, and the people of Texas are proud of it. Not the,
yes.
Obviously the majority. There are people in Texas that don't agree with him, but it's a very popular stance to have in Texas.
Yeah, he was the first thing was that exactly that he's killed more people. The second thing was he killed an innocent person that he appointed a committee to investigate, found out that he was innocent, still killed him. And the third thing, I forgot.
Right.
I love it. I love it.
I started counting right away. I knew where we were going with that.
But let me, Phil Donahue, a while ago, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 years ago, made a big push publicly saying, hey, if we're going to have executions, the state killing criminals, we should do it live on television. Yeah. And everybody was like, what's wrong with that guy? Well, the reason why he wanted to do that, it was like, well, why don't we do it in public? Are we embarrassed of our own criminal justice system? Why should we administer justice in secret?
Right.
And that's a bullshit.
Are we ashamed? And also, he said if it's a deterrent, then let more people see it. Let everybody see it.
Right.
Town square hanging.
That would be barbaric. It's not barbaric if we do it in private behind glass and we have curtains that we can pull. Then it's not. Right. Then it's humane. But if we do it on television, what is it? What kind of a human being are you? Well, we're trying to expose what's wrong with this.
It feeds into the human need for vengeance.
It's all this is.
It's all about vengeance. It's not about being a deterrent. We have evidence proving that that's not the case.
And people will often say, I read the comment sections on the internet with stories like this, and people always say, why do you care what happened to this guy? The girl he killed, he didn't care about. That's not the point. You don't become immorally as shitty as the worst person in society to try to have punishment towards them. You try to maintain a standard of humanity, which makes our society better. So that's the reason. Those people who say that, it's just like, how dumb are you that you don't understand that it's not about what this person did, it's about who we are as a society. The same argument John McCain made about torture.
And the third thing is that we are third world because of this.
Yes.
That would be number 3.
With the North Korea, Iran, who else still kills their own citizens?